So it's a war of words between the sole administrator of Rivers State, Ibokibas, and of course the NBA having to shift the conference of the NBA annual conference that's called the AGF or AGM, to Enugu States. The sole administrator is asking that the monies be returned back to Rivers States because it was monies that were given because this Rivers State government was looking to assist. And the NBA is saying that they're not going to return it. There have been back and forth war of words between the two, and sole administrator is looking to even go to court, making sure that that money is gotten back. But the NBA is saying that it was a gift and it's not going to return it. Let's speak to this issue. A legal practitioner joins us, Barrister Umar Aninu Kalgo. Barrister, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. My pleasure to be on the show.
I mean, tell us what's your reading of what's going on, especially as it concerns the situation. I mean, do you think that the monies should be returned back to Rivers State?
The issue of this contribution, is not an isolated matter, considering that the Nigerian Bar Association earlier on is opposed to this issue of declaration of state of emergency, leading to the NBA issuing a public statement that it is unconstitutional. To me, it's a mixed feeling to talk about it. That is the position of the mother body of the Nigerian Bar Association. But I have to say on record, I have a different opinion, which I know is there on the media, but now we are talking about the NBA. So you can see the reason why the NBA have shifted the annual general conference is regarding the state of emergency. That's why it was now relocated to Enugu. And now this is what led you see, it is a follow-up to their position, which they already made known, the NBA have made known. And if a place is in a state of emergency, it's a place that relatively you will think of the peace and what have you of the particular area. So the reasons for the NBA could be lumped together, having been, in opposition to it, as it said in its statement, and also it connotes wherever there is a state of emergency, because a lot of lawyers were writing to the NBA. I could remember there is a senior advocate that since the place is in a state of emergency, he didn't feel it safe for him to go there with all the counsel. So these are some of the background issues that necessitated the shifting of the NBA. So after that, then in a sudden, we heard about the Rivers State administrator talking about the contribution that were made by the governor to the NBA. So, and now even leading, threatening to go to the court, and the statement of the NBA in response, as you have directly, observed that the chairman of the planning committee for the conference have come out to say that those monies were mere contributions issued by Rivers State. So in a way, I would say, I don't think that this will boil down to a real legal, it's not something that should be that serious to warrant taking a legal action. That's my humble view. So I think it's just a media issue, because maybe relocating the Nigerian Bar Association annual conference may be like an embarrassment, maybe so to say, to the government of, the sole administrator or the of the River States. Equally, what he said now is, look, in the media, what I would say is like he too issuing something that a little bit looks like embarrassing to the Nigerian Bar Association. That's my take on this.
Do you think the reason given by the NBA for shifting the conference to Enugu from Port Harcourt is tenable? Do you think it's justifiable?
Why shouldn't it be justifiable? The Nigerian Bar Association is an independent association which can take any decision at its discretion. So it's not about anyone deciding or feeling it is right or wrong for it. No, the decision is for MBA, and it can take it at will. So I don't think that will cause any, whatever assessment they were able to make, being it a voluntary, so to say, association of professionals in Nigeria, it is in better position to take position for its, members. So I think it's not for anyone to dictate what the MBA should do as far as it relates to its decision relating to its members. After all, that conference is just for members of the Nigerian Bar Association, so to say, in the general terms. So that's the way, the perspective one should have looked at it. My concern here is, I think the military administrator of Rivers State should know that his appointment is there as an extraordinary measure to bring normalcy to Rivers State. So I think such kind of things are so little, so trifle, not calling to why he is there. I think the focus should be bringing back Rivers State to normalcy so that the elected government can come back and continue with while the necessary institutions and procedures are already taken. I think that's what he should, his appointment is not one that should be retrospective, looking at things that have happened before his appointment. Rather, is there to fix in the future for a better River State. So I think, I don't think he will dwell on it to that extent of filing a case. I think it's that call that it has been too much distraction to what he has at hand.
Some arguments that have been put forth so far is that the decision to, declare a state of emergency in Rivers State was made by the president and maybe a few persons. So if there's ever going to be a decision about moving the conference, it should be a situation that it wouldn't be moved to Abuja. At least by the meeting, happening in Rivers State, Port Harcourt, it just sends a message, to the president and also even to the state sole administrator, saying that what have happened is wrong. It's also a way of even, stamping your feet and saying, since this conference is happening in Rivers State, we have an opportunity to speak truth to power, stating clearly why they feel that the president may have made this move in the wrong direction. So moving into Enugu State, many argue that it is a wrong move to do that. Do you agree, with those sentiments?
Wrong move to do what? I want you to be precise.
A wrong move to move it to Enugu State, the conference.
Well, so I suppose the president you are referring to is the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, right?
No, the decision at first, decision to announce a state of emergency in Rivers was made in Abuja. So Ibas is not there on his own volition. He did not take over power from Similai Fufubara. He was appointed. So he is somebody who is there at least to oversee the affairs of the state for the first 6 months. So why would it be a reason why they would move a conference to Enugu, given that Ibas is not the reason for the problem in the first place?
Yes, you see, that's why I laid the background, because, and I have stated it clearly that, the position of the Nigerian Bar Association is very clear on the issue of this statement of emergency, that it view it as unconstitutional. Do you get me? So in a way, I can see even taking away the conference is a way of protest by the MBA, in my view, to send a message. I say this just looking from the perspective of the MBA. Everyone is clear that the MBA have issued that statement saying that unequivocally saying in its own opinion that the state of emergency is uh, is uh, unconstitutional.
Yeah, but
I
you know,
think
the protest in this sense should have been against the president who made the move, who made the pronouncement, not the state's sole administrator.
you know, when you want to make a protest and to send a message, you do it at the opportunity you have. And I believe this is just an opportunity the MBA have felt. Let me tell you, you know, I have a different opinion with the MBA, as I told you. To me, I think there are reasons to say it, but it's not the discussion here. I have an interview then on the 20th of March at TVC, which I know people can go back to and see the reasons I profess. But I want to say that whatever way it does, the MBA did it. This message would be equally received because it's not just the sole administrator. The whole nation is aware now that the conference had been shifted, but just for one reason, that the state of emergency that was. So I think it's a way of sending message. And the other one is the statement the NBA have put out, I think is directly to the nation and to the presidency too. I know such things cannot go unnoticed by the presidency as well. So I think the opportunity within reach of the NBA, it has exhausted. I think this is how one can perceive and see the perspective.
You had mentioned that the sole administrator was appointed in order to keep the peace and not to chase little things. You are referring to this 300 million naira giving to them as little thing. I mean, I'm wondering, the state government is saying, look, we gave you 300 million for you to organize this event here, and if you're not organizing it here, why don't you just return the money? I mean, to save the face and the integrity of the NBA. Do you think that the integrity of the NBA will be impeded if, for instance, they refuse to return the 300 million? After all, the money isn't theirs.
I don't think that the condition for giving those monies was that it should be, conducted in river states. The decision to have the conference in the first place in River State is taken by the Nigerian Bar Association. That's for sure. And support and contributions, even from governments and non-governmental and the business community and companies, is a natural thing. Some would do this and they would be acknowledged as supporters of the conference. That's how it goes. And at the conference, you will see the name of many states, sponsoring certain things or being the major. Yeah, the donors are categorized. So what the MBA is saying, that there's no condition to this contribution. It's just a contribution by the state government. I am not looking at the quantum of the money, 300 million, to say that it is a trivial thing for the. What I'm just trying to point that is the military administrator, the sole administrator is there to fix the problems. And the problems there in river states majorly are lack of an appropriation bill and also lack of elected or local government chairman, because there is a Supreme Court judgment that prevented the federal government from, releasing the funds to river states unless and until there is a valid appropriation bill and there is a validly elected local government council. So I think the main job of the extraordinary measure needed here in River State is the extraordinary measure to have these things in place. If we have this thing in place and the governor returns, then the government will just continue to flourish. We don't want a situation where we will go back to square one. When after 6 months, the governor may come and still there is no any even provisional appropriation bill which was made under an extraordinary measure for them to come and just adopt, and also to have a timetable for the election of the local government chairman or election already. So you see, this is, I think, the main thing for the administrator, not other things.
Right. So for you as a legal practitioner, do you think that what the president did in River State is one that is accepted? I mean, so many persons have said that it's illegal to have, suspended an elected governor. I mean, it's never happened really since the turn of the 1999 Constitution up until this time. We still had governors. Times it happened, we still had, governors stayed, even though state of emergencies is, basically declared. But I'm just wondering, do you think that the president was wrong with his declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers?
In my own opinion, he is not wrong. My reason for saying this is the issue of River State is a protracted issue, starting with that judgment of the Supreme Court that said that from henceforth the allocation for the state should not be released until there is a proper appropriation bill, and also that the local government too, until there are validly elected local government council, because the one he had did, the Supreme Court had annulled as being illegal and unconstitutional. So with these two aspect orders of the Supreme Court, the federal government is in no position to release the funds for those states. And after that judgment, it takes a while. The governor and the House of Assembly could not meet face to face to fix these things in the interest of the people of River State, to have an appropriation bill, to have a timetable for that election, for the interest of the poor of what? The River State. Let me tell you, we would be having a heated discussion if this administrator is not there and the funds for the River State are being seized completely. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. I mean, that's a recipe for insecurity and disturbance. So for me, this is under Section 305D. It says it can be declared to avert an imminent danger. So extraordinary measure could be taken. The way I see it is that this extraordinary measure is just there to fix these two anomalies arising from the judgment of the Supreme Court, which the governor and the House of Assembly were not able to see through, that this judgment has been executed to the fullest. And that judgment have a detrimental, punitive measure towards them, which will affect the ordinary taxpayers and ordinary citizens of the state will be held at ransom just for the ruckus between politicians in their rivalry taken out to, for proportion unprecedented in the nation. So I think this is why, this is my perspective. I think even when I supported it, I did not support it on that ground, which one of the grounds the federal government is saying, which is the bombings of the pipelines. That is not the ground. But this, under Section 305D, where extraordinary measures can be taken to avert, imminent danger. And I think stopping the allocation of estates just like that to continue, I think is a recipe for, disruption of peace.
Stopping the allocation of a state, is it even possible? Because even that, we've had subsisting Supreme Court judgments in 1999 between Lagos and the federal government when Obasanjo first seized Lagos state local government funds. And at that time, the Supreme Court said that the federal government doesn't have the right to, stop any allocation because it is statutory. It is due them. You can't stop it. So one would wonder, why would the Supreme Court, make that kind of pronouncement? And then we would have a president come out and make a statement using 305 as a means to suspend a duly elected government. And even if the Supreme Court actually said they should suspend allocation to the state government, it didn't say they should suspend the duly elected government of Rivers State.
First of all, I think we need to decipher the situation during the Obasanjo regime and now. During the President Obasanjo regime, it is just an administrative measure that he took to stop paying allocation to Lagos State. It is not an order of the court. That's one. But here what we have is a judgment of the Supreme Court. And neither I nor you are in position to question, why that order was made, because it's a judgment and the court have looked at it. And there is something about the law. You look at the law as it is. You cannot have an opinion as how it ought to be. No. Yeah, it is the highest court of the nation, and those orders stood and they are implementable. I just want us to look at this scenario. Since it is the Supreme Court order, then it has to be executed to the fullest. So I think the federal government is in a position that is very tight, having seen that those actors, the right actors who have the duty to see that the appropriation bill is there and the election for local government is conducted, that is the governor and the House of Assembly, have failed to do that. So the federal government knew that with that, then this allocation will then stop going, because the Supreme Court judgment is there, must be followed accordingly. So this is the situation that was there, and I think this is just how best one can explain it, because the Supreme Court judgment, we all know how it is. So it is not something that anything could be said about it.
One would argue that there are other places in the country that is begging for a state of emergency. If you are to go by 305, that the president actually used in announcing a state of emergency in Rivers, we didn't have any people dying. We didn't have a number of persons who have lost their lives. There were no, community clash. There was no threats to life. We all know the story. We're talking about two big wigs, a political godfather and a political godson, who have actually decided to not let go. So, but now we also have situations in Plateau State. We've had situations in Borno State. We've had situations in Benue State. We're talking more than 100 people across board being killed. Only this morning we even had a particular update about what's happening in Benue State. And we haven't seen the president move with speed, the same speed had he used in declaring a state of emergency in Rivers State, use that same speed to declare state of emergency in the 3 local government areas in Borno State. We haven't seen that happen in the local government areas that is happening in Bokos in Plateau State. And the same thing with Benue State. One would have thought that, look, this is practically not because the president wants the peace to be kept, it's just because of the politics of 2027. Do you think those sentiments are correct?
No. The reason is that you give example of Katsina State, Borno State, Plateau State. All these are security challenges. The loss of lives there, as you said, is very horrible, and is something that I think we don't have anything in Nigeria that bothers us much than those loss of lives, because there's nothing as precious as a life of an individual. But that said, the issue of security in Nigeria is wholly in the hands of the federal government, the Nigerian army, the armed forces, having the three tiers there included the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy, and you have the Nigerian police, you have the NSCDC, you have all the security apparatus, and by our constitution, you know, it is under the exclusive list for the federal government. So the issue of security, it is in the hands of the federal government. Where you have that failure is for the federal government. So how can you go and attribute it to a state and use it to declare a state of emergency and removing the governor of that state? If a state of emergency is going to be declared on this issue, I think it's going to be for the federal government itself. That said, I did not mean that such things, that can be a position where it can be put, but really it is the, it is the responsibility of the federal government. With this, I think I have made that point. But really, there can be a situation where the state of emergency can be, put even in that such circumstances. Because, you know, in terms of restoring it peace and how far the deplorable situation is, there can be scenarios where really the state of emergency can be put. I think the place where it can readily be imposed is where maybe you find if there is a nexus that the state governor is, implicated in such issues and maybe have aggravated or, took side and further such things, then, and I think such things, I don't think anyone sensible to rise to such position of power will do something like that. I envisage a situation where state of emergency could be imposed due to the quantum of the issue of, the insecurity in a state. But once you want to take a blame to the governor, so I think in such situation, it is not going to be a blame on the governor, but rather the failure of the federal government itself.
Yeah, but then again, this explanation that you have put forward can also be done for Rivers State. I mean, the bombing of pipeline, the security of the entire nation is solely the responsibility of the president. And many people have said, because of that, they feel that this politics that is being played is more about capturing Rivers in 2027 rather than, you know, trying to keep the peace or save, you know, the government assets there. So those people may be justified by stating that what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. I mean, if you say that the security is within the purview of the federal government, the same thing should be said for Rivers State. Don't you think so?
Absolutely. You see, when I made my case supporting the state of emergency, I readily say it that what the federal government is saying about that bombing cannot be a ground, because the security is in the hands of the federal government. And unless there is a proof that the governor is complicit in such things, there's no way. And with what we have, that thing cannot even be attributed to him, we know. So I made this point. So if with this you can see my only ground is the one I have already told you, that considering that the allocations of that state will cease to flow by the judgment of the Supreme Court. I think that recipe, you know, is one that entails of untold hardship for the ordinary citizens and will result to havoc and insecurity, definitely. And I think the blames too now, if now the federal government have not declared this and those politicians continue to remain in their stalemate and the monies are not flowing to the river state, consider them not flowing for 6 months, a year, what do you think of that state? So I think we Nigerians should be very proud of this nation, and hopefully we pray that some of these things that we are aspiring to have a democratic dispensation that will serve the interests of the citizens will come to be.
Yeah. In your submission, you mentioned that there's a subsisting court judgment by the Supreme Court stating that monies should not be released to the local government, given that the elections were null and void. And now we are seeing the sole administrator appointing sole administrators for local government, meaning that the government wants to release, or the CBN wants to basically release those local government funds. How do you react to that?
I react to it by saying what is in Rivers State is an extraordinary measure. So all these boil in and fall into extraordinary measure. You see, extraordinary measure is abnormal situation to return to normalcy. In the Constitution, we don't have rights that are as respected and inalienable as the human rights contained in Chapter 4. But where there is insecurity and the issue of a state of emergency is declared, you see, such, provisions, depending on the situation, would now be, will not be relegated, not being enforceable.
Okay, Barrister Umar Aninu Kalgo is a legal practitioner speaking to us all the way from Birning Kebbi, our studios in Birning Kebbi this morning. He is giving us an insight into what he thinks about the development in Rivers State. We're back after this short break.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.